Good evening and welcome back to the Galway Film Fleadh, to sadly our last film of the week, the fantastic Arracht. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did, and it's my pleasure now to be joined by some of the cast and crew from the film. We have director Sasha Quinn, we have cast Donall O Healaí, Dara Devaney, and Sasha Quinn. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
Glad you could all be here. Thanks for joining us, albeit online. Wish we could all be at the stage of the Town Hall Theatre, obviously, but we'll make do.
Thanks for having us. We're really happy to be here. Well,
good stuff. And not in Sicily at Taormina, where the film is also playing tonight. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So we're on tonight in Tor. How do you say? Is it Taormina?
I want to say Taormina.
I would say you're right, Will.
I would expect it. Someone's probably told you, surely.
It's emails. Nobody speaks to me anymore. It's all just emails. So
yeah. Well, listen, I want to throw some questions at you. And I suppose we'll start actually, again, I love this film. Congratulations. And, one of the first things that I kind of thought of after my first viewing of it was how, because I was such a fan of your shorts, Tom, and I was thinking of Ossel, and I was thinking of Mechanic, and I was thinking, a lot of them, perhaps, with the exception of Personal Development, had kind of focused on people confronting mortality in some way or another. And then here you come with the first feature, and it's the story all about, it's almost a nation facing its mortality. Tell us a bit about this story and where it came from.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, I suppose, it's a good point that throughout, the shorts that I've made and stuff, unintentionally, I always seem to end up, I suppose, looking for characters with history and, problems and trauma, because I find that we all have it. We all have that, and I think it's a good starting point for me as a writer to jump off from, is to find a person who has something in their past that they're trying to deal with, and so the parallels between that and what's happened to us as a nation since then is almost like Coleman Sharkey, Donald's character, is the embodiment, if you like, of a nation's trauma. So that's I think that's kind of in a roundabout way where why I was interested in this time and this place as a jump off point. But really the inspiration, and I come back all the time to the west of Ireland, Connemara, and the landscape. I think that's where it started. I've had a long relationship with the landscape in Connemara and the sea, and it always conjures up stories for me. It's where Ossel came from, the short at the beginning, the first thing I made. So that's really where it started. I was I wanted to make my first feature, and the first image was a man on a boat, who had turned his back on his people, and he was isolated, and floating offshore looking in, and that's where it began. And then obviously the landscape was Ireland in 1847, and the bleakness, and what would it be like. And that's where I started, and then I traced back, and then I went forward. So that's where it began. It began in the middle of the film was the first scene I wrote, when it jumps into 2 years later.
That was 2 years previous, or 2 years ahead, yeah.
Where it began.
And speaking of the West and the landscape, you shot in Letter Malons, isn't that right?
Yeah, we shot. We were really lucky. We went to Letter Mullan. I searched for the right landscape, and obviously I would be well aware of Connemara, but I'd never been to Letter Mullan. And thankfully, my art department, the head of art department, Pádraig O'Neill, when we were recceing, he had worked on Song of Granite, and he had done the art department on that. And when I came to him, when he read the script, we were him and hawing about, will we go here, will we go there? Now, it was all Connemara, but where? And he just said, no, you got to come with me. So I jumped in the car and I drove down that day, and he brought me out to Little Mullon, and that was it. The minute I stepped out of the car, I was like, this is perfect. So it was wonderful, and the people of Little Mullon were, massive support, and I'm just blessed, like, because Little Mullon is a character in the film and one of the main characters, really. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's brilliant. And then maybe I could talk, well, instead of asking you, I'll go to Sasha, because I wanted to ask about how you found, the character of Kitty. Sasha, how was tell us how you got cast in your first feature film.
It was a really good experience. I loved it a lot, actually. And I just really loved it, and I definitely want to do more in the future.
Great. You won an award recently for your role in this film, didn't you?
Yeah. I actually didn't realize it for a while, because I hadn't really thought about the film since. I mean, I knew about it, but I haven't really thought about it. But my mom came into my room, like, and I could see, like, the excitement in her, like, and she just and she told me all about it, and I was really happy with it.
I haven't had a chance
you should
to
be.
give Sasha a round of applause for her award.
Hey. Again, I wish we could do that with a whole town hall full of people, Sasha, but we will in the next film.
What was great about casting Sasha, though, was that we had looked in all the schools around Connemara for Kitty, and we had searched. I think we saw about 80 or 90 students, and narrowed them down to 12. And the day we were doing the callbacks, I was there, and obviously Sasha's mother is Liz Quinn, who works for the festival. Her grandfather is Bob Quinn, and her uncle is Robert Quinn, and her aunt is Hannah Quinn. And these are all, if you know,
an amazing legacy, Sash.
They're all film. This is a film family, and I would know all of these people, but I honestly didn't know. And it was after I had done the callbacks that I walked out, and Sasha's mum was standing there, and it was Liz, and I went, "Which one is yours?" And she was like, like, "You're joking." It's like, yeah. And I knew then that I wanted Sasha for the part, and I looked at her, and I didn't want to give it away or say it, and because Liz would know, and she was like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. She just came in for the crack." Like, and I went, "No, Liz, she, it's her. Like, she's the one." Like, and Liz was like, "What, really?"
Wow.
So it was kind of weird coincidence that it's turned out to be her, but she's brilliant.
Well, it all worked out. It worked out to great effect. Sasha, like Tom was saying, you have a lot of filmmakers in your family. Was there anything about making a film that kind of surprised you, or that you didn't expect, or was it all kind of pretty much what you had heard about and what you thought it would be like?
Well, I was definitely surprised, because we don't really talk about. I mean, we talk about the interesting, like, stunts and stuff about film. We don't really talk about behind the scenes and, like, how the scenes are kind of put together. And I didn't know that all the scenes were, like, chosen randomly to be acted in. So that was definitely a surprise. And yeah, I'm definitely surprised, because but I loved it.
The way things are shot out of sequence is unusual. Yeah, no, I imagine it can be. Donall and Dara, I want to talk to our protagonist, our antagonist, of course, and get your guys' perspective on the shoot. Donall, I was kind of amazed how, like, I don't think you went full-on machinist or anything, but those scenes in the cave were definitely, the physical element of this role. It looked like it might have taken its toll.
Yeah, I guess it was a big part of it, Will. Early on, it was clear from the script that Coleman's character was kind of the lens through which the famine is seen. And because our budget was kind of tight and it was all done in 20 days, Tom will say we didn't have a chance to show the famine in kind of masses of starving people. So Yeah, it did take a toll, but it was a gift as well as an actor. It was my way into the character, and I was trying to get as close as I could to recreating the experience within the parameters I was working with, you know. So as difficult as it was, I think it really added to my experience of filming the piece.
Yeah, fair play. And Dara, you know, the film, it's called Arracht, and but I suppose like there are, you know, many villains to the story. I mean, do you see Patsy as sort of the main antagonist of the film? Is he more of a I mean, he's definitely a catalyst for a lot of the action that happens.
Yeah, and but I wouldn't see it as the main. It's a manifestation of the horrific scenarios, and it's not really, you know, to let Patsy off the hook, because probably would have got himself in trouble regardless of any kind of situation going on. It's kind of a dark character, but it's bringing out the absolute worst in people. And I'm not really actually sure if I ever, you know, asked the question, you know, but I always felt that the monster, the Arracht, is what just the horror that comes out of people and the scenario, you know, of the times. Huge tension involved, and I thought that was great from Tom to, you know, there's a lot of talk about the famine. First feature, you know, about the famine, or one of the first, and you know, I don't think Tom took it upon himself to tell the whole story of what was going on in the country, and you know, it does contextualize it to some degree, but like Donald says, it kind of it was through this small, intimate sort of situation that these characters were in that they got to show that. I don't think I answered your question at all there, though.
No, I think you did, and I think you raised an interesting point about how, you know, Donald, you said that Coleman is sort of the window through which we see the famine, or he's sort of the manifestation of it. But I suppose it's ultimately, as despairing as the story can be, it's ultimately about sort of the human spirit as well. Would you say?
Absolutely, yeah. I think, you know, one thing about Tom's films is there's always great heart, and I think although Arracht, and in this film there's a tremendous amount of human suffering on display, ultimately I think it's a story of hope, you know, because when you pare back the layers, you're left with that kind of the survival instinct of the human spirit, and I think that's visible, and that's palpable in the piece, you know. And so, although it's a tough piece of film, I do think that there's great hope in it. And of course, Sasha's character, you know, Kitty, like, and I'll just say, like, Sasha was amazing to work with, you know. Just talking there about like the looking for a way in, like. You know, she many of the times she was correcting my lines, Will. So yeah, and so yeah, I mean, to have her presence on set was great, because I think a huge theme of the film as well is what children have to teach us, and you know, that's all coming from Tom, and a testament to his imagination and to his script, really.
Yeah,
and but piggyback on that as well, just that, you know, I think it's a big call for a director to write a piece, to invest so much time in it, and to place it on young shoulders like that. And I can imagine some young actors being really, really good in an audition, but that's not to say that they would have the sort of maturity or the stamina to put up with, you know, working outside and really long, boring days and all that kind of stuff. And you know, like Donald says, it's a testament to both of them. It's really impressive.
Absolutely. I know it's actually great to see, Tom, that you don't. I mean, between Arracht and personal development as well, which, as I mentioned, is a favorite short of mine. You know, you don't shy away from working with young people, despite the sort of industry advice. You know, anything to say about that?
I suppose. Yeah, I think we have a lot to learn from our younger members of our society. I think we could all learn to be a bit younger, you know. I think we could all learn to be a bit a bit more childlike, because so I think it's, for me, it's always somewhere I go when I'm writing. These kids seem to just pop up in my films, because I just feel they can be an incredible salve, or way to heal trouble in a, or trauma in a character. They can be a great, I don't want to be trite and say they're a great device, but it is kind of that, when you're writing something and you're trying to create a world, and you're trying to create, obviously, conflict and a problem. I just go to kids, because I think that I think young people have a lot to teach us. And also with this story, the weird thing about Arracht is that Donald, in a way, represents an old Ireland, in that he, his character represents an Ireland of maybe 200-300 years before the famine, because he's still in tune with nature. He's still in tune, because what happened around that time was, because of the potato, it kind of took over in a lot of ways and homogenized the way we eat and the way we think, because it was easy to, you could grow a field of potatoes and feed your family. So a lot of the old skills of hunting and fishing and stuff went by the wayside, and we lost those. So the minute the potato was pulled away from us, then after 300 or 400 years of reliance on it, we were left wanting. So he represents the old, because he would have been able to well survive if what happened hadn't happened to him, in terms of what happened with Patsy and the landlord. But Sasha represents the future. She represents an Ireland of the future. That's Kitty's role, is the Ireland of now, almost. And she has a hope in her, as all kids do, because they're not polluted by, they're not beaten down. So they have, human spirit is undistilled in them. And so so for me, writing about that is it's a really rich vein for drama and conflict. So that's why,
And I think the audience really senses it as well, which is why the stakes actually feel so high at the end when Kitty's life is in danger. And on that, actually, as well, Dara, I like the sort of cold, dispassionate way that you threaten to open Kitty's throat is just terrifying, frankly. Was there any particular kind of psychos that you were channeling when you were playing this man, Patsy?
No, and it's not in me. I swear to God. I didn't go kind of in the kind of Stanislavski kind of. I think that approaching it was the actions are horrific, and then I didn't want to sort of try to not to play up any sort of inherent evil. My interpretation of the character was that he was just an extremely weak person, giving in to the most base instincts, and had really sort of a lost soul, and I think as a sort of self-punishment at that point is just like heading headlong into this darkness, but it's not fun to do all that kind of stuff, because you're pretending, but it's this sort of awful, it's right there when you're kind of like acting it out, so you're kind of having to imagine these kind of scenarios and what it would be like. So it's good to have a nice friendly bunch who can break the tension in between takes, joke, and then go back to that kind of stuff, but completely committed to it as well, because you have to try to do it justice.
And Dara, that scene was your first day, wasn't it? Wasn't that your first day on set?
Yeah, I think so. There was 1 or 2 days when we were in the location, and that was interesting, because I was about 2 weeks into the shoot before I had my first day, and it's Patsy's return or whatever, and so it kind of helped the scene that I was this weird outsider, because I felt like a weird outsider anyways as me coming on the set, but I thought it was just to deviate from that a little bit and not to be just kind of saying nice things about these people for the sake of it. But, it was worth it's worth noting that, you know, with these sort of low budget films with weather, the sea, budget and time constraints and all this kind of stuff, I'm sure it's just chaos and tension. And Tom, as a first-time director, then it was just so impressive to walk into this kind of bubble of calm in the middle of it, you know. And it was a very creative space. And the rapport between Tom and Donall, particularly, you could tell that it was built up in the prep before the shoot. It was really interesting to see them at work, because it could have been really different. It could have been like gotten really chaotic. But Tom was always there to steady the ship and say, "No, we're grand." You know, he was really calm. You know, whether he was panicking on the inside, he did a really good job of
look. We had a great. It's that calmness comes from, and it's not again just saying nice things about people, but you know, I suppose casting is hugely important, and when you cast the right people, it just makes everything easier, and that's where it came from. Because I wasn't for a second. The thing that would make me panic would be if I thought it was shit, basically. Excuse me, Sasha, but that would be that is the only thing that would make me panic. Like storms, sea, whatever. Fine, we can all deal with that. That's something we can't control. But my responsibility is to make sure that it's not bad. And when you have a cast like this, it ain't going to be bad, you know. And so I was always okay. It doesn't matter what else was going on. I was like, well, it's fine because what we're getting is great. So, you know.
Brilliant.
You know,
well, yeah, that collaboration, it really showed on the screen. Well done. We've got to wrap things up, but I'd just like to quickly ask each of you in turn. You know, Tom, you mentioned how the famine was really this sort of, I suppose, a massive check in a way for people and to reflect on, you know, things that had been lost through the years. And obviously we've lived through a massive worldwide event just recently, which is why we're all talking over Zoom. What's lockdown been like for each of you? Has there been anything, has it been of use creatively? Has it been frustrating? Maybe if you'd each quickly take a turn and just tell us what it was like. Donall, if we start with you.
Sure. Yeah, lockdown for me, I guess the big thing I took from it, Will, was spending a bit of time with the family. I've been away for quite some time, so that was a positive. And then just reconnecting with Galway, with Connemara and the sea, especially. You know, I was fortunate enough where I wasn't on the front lines, and there were people who were really putting their lives at risk and still are every day. You know, so yeah, just taking time out. Creatively, I had all these plans and they've yet to come to fruition, so more shall be revealed on that.
Great stuff. They'll have their day. Sasha, how about you?
Well, at the start of lockdown, I thought it was just 2 weeks, and I was like, oh, this is great, 2 weeks off school, no homework. And like on the last day of school, me and my friends were all planning stuff to do. But then, like, when I got home and I actually understood the situation, I was like devastated. But as it got longer and longer, like it was okay. I mean, it was nice having a bit of time at home, but it's frustrating, like trying to do homework and not being able to meet up with your friends and like, yeah. But as it went by, I didn't really notice it that much. It's just a structure in your day. It kind of gets messed up, but I feel it's much better now because I have more structure, because I'm able to meet up with my friends, and yeah.
Great.
I like it.
And Dara, yourself?
It's as you were, Devaney. Just that's how it was beforehand. I just don't have the pressure of people when they ask me, you know, are you working these days? Just to happen to make
There's a good reason, a good answer there. Tom has a guest.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess you've been spending more time with the kids, Tom.
Go on. I how did I deal with? Well, what Sasha said is actually Sasha gave actually really, I think, a really good description of what we've all been dealing with. You know, at the beginning it was, you know, okay, what is this? And then it kind of just it's set in, and I think we all start to get sick of it, really. And I think, you know, you can say what you want about lockdown or not lockdown or this or that or the other, but I think we have to go through this period now where we have to see what happens. And I'm glad things have relaxed, and I think we just have to do this. And hopefully it won't come back. But I don't think we could have gone. I don't think we'd have kept doing that for any longer, really, any of us.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I would have been in a development stage anyway, because Arracht just finished. So I'm trying like crazy to write the next movie, and so I found it, yeah, I suppose useful for that. But I mean, I would have been doing that anyway.
Yeah.
No, it's been, yeah. Look, it's, you know, it's what it is, but it's not great, like, you know, but it is what it is. Yeah.
But hopefully it'll be useful for that development process. We look forward to.
So. Yeah.
Look forward to future projects from all of you. We're going to have to leave it there, but I want to say thanks so much again, lads, for joining us. Thanks for sharing your film with us, this online edition of the Galway Film Fleadh. Thanks to everyone at home for watching. Sadly, this is the final film of the festival. We're recording this on the final day, Sunday. If there's anything from the lineup that you want to watch before it goes away, you better add that to your online library before midnight. Now's the time to watch it. Thank you for watching Arracht. Thank you to the cast and crew again for joining us. This has been the 2020 Galway Film Fleadh. I've been Will Fitzgerald. Thanks so much, and Slán.